Sacred blessings to you, ever expanding soul. We are to be awesomenators, extraordinary, that are motivated and moved by the divine love that God has for us, that is ours. This higher dimensional love is alive and can flow like a river within us and around us. You know, the concept of there's a God is in many ways beyond 3D understanding. The 3D words are really hard to describe God, the creator. Some people eventually say there's no God because it's so hard to define for so many precious souls. You know, that's a Western culture thing that keeps a lot of people in the bottom 3D of the black cube. Many people stop believing in God or stop going to church because many of the folks who attend church do not allow the flow and glow of God to move, but the energies of judgment flow instead. I've experienced the divine in so many ways, working with folks from around the world and the indigenous ways and some of the 55 different denominations I've taught and shared in, and of course in my youth in the woods and my hermit time here on the hill through creation. The mystics have given Rev more evidence of the divine and in incredible ways beyond definition. These mystical ones are hardcore proof of the Creator and that there is so much more for each one of us, since we are multidimensional beings where God can dwell. Here's a mystical one that has motivated and moved Rev, and who is a powerhouse and teacher for Rev, is Padre Pio. He was an Italian Capuchin friar, a priest, and he joined the order when he was 15 and spent most of his religious life in the monastery San Giovanni Rotondo. He was born in May of 1887 and died in September of 1968 at the age of 81. He was passing away when Rev was almost 15 years old. He moved and flowed in many gifts from God. We all have our divine gifts, but Padre Pio worked hard on honing and sharpening these incredible gifts for God and for the people around him. We know that such practices of fasting, vigil, solitude, and various other mortifications played an important part in Padre Pio's spiritual development at this time, strengthening him in virtue and liberating his spirit from all the selfishness and entering a oneness with God, an OWG. You and I can expand our OWG, our oneness with God. He was a stigmatist. He had the wounds of Yeshua on the cross. For 50 years he had the wounds on his hands and his feet and his side, which would release a sacred, fragrant aroma. He was a mystic, which would be an understatement of what he did and who he was. He would even wrestle physically with the dark ones for the souls of others. Padre Pio was a hollow bone for the divine ways to flow and transform precious souls. God healed hundreds and hundreds of people through Padre Pio. Every night he would fight for souls. The person did not even have to be present before him to be healed. But here's one that was present in front of Pio for healing. Gemma de Giorgio was a little girl when she visited Padre Pio. She was born blind without pupils in either eye. Right after her visit with Padre Pio, she miraculously gained her sight back. But one truly miraculous factor about this healing was that while she could see, she still had no pupils. Padre Pio's living faith and confidence in God's healing power was unparalleled. He shows us all the power of prayer can yield beautiful, miraculous results. He was a conduit of God's grace, God's love, and God's mercy. Here's a quote from Pio. Quote, "Love is the first ingredient in the relief of suffering," end of quote. I have found this to be very true in my own life. Rev has had health challenges for my whole life. God's pure love for Rev has shown me through with my health challenges. This divine unconditional love for Rev is a balm of healing in my heart thoughts and my head thoughts, and at times in my physical body. Think about it. Padre Pio had the wounds of Christ that bled and hurt for 50 years. It was the love of God that moved him through those 50 years, and with this suffering came blessings that very few have ever experienced and really understand. This amazing love moved him through how to utilize the suffering and even create spin-off divine energies where he could do amazing things. Padre Pio bilocated all the time. His first bilocation was in 1905. He was 17 years old and he was a seminarian student. He was transported to home in Italy to assist a man who was dying. In 1917, during World War I, an Italian general, Cardona, was thinking about suicide because he was despondent over military defeats. He was preparing to commit suicide. Padre Pio appeared in the general's tent. Pio shook his arm and firmly said, "General, you will not do this foolish thing." The startled general later sought out the friar and recognized him as the man who saved his life. In another bilocation visit, Padre Pio appeared in a city in Italy. There was a female school teacher was accused of providing arms and bombs to a radical group that had killed military personnel and civilians. But the teacher was totally innocent. She was taken by force from her home to be tried and shot. Somehow she succeeded in bringing with her a rosary and a photograph of Padre Pio. They showed her the destruction and to see and experience of the dead whose deaths they attributed to her. They brought her to the place of execution. Meanwhile, some members of the firing squad entered her home with the pretext of searching for arms. Instead, they began stealing money, objects of gold, clothing, until all of a sudden there was a thundering, a shout, "Enough!" so resolutely that the soldiers fled, abandoning their loot. And her sister was in the home experiencing all this. The order to aim and fire had been suspended because of the arrival of military armored cars, horses, cannon, ambulance, and marching troops. The commander was frozen like a statue. Guess who was behind all of this? Yes, Pio the bilocator. Then a man appeared to her as the commander was frozen. He took her away from there. A few months later, the teacher went to San Giovanni to thank God. She shared with Padre Pio how thankful she was for him saving her life that day. I'll share one more specific bilocation trip that happened during World War II. Padre Pio promised his Italian village people and his brothers in the monastery that there would be no bombing in their area during the war. Excuse me. Then one day, the Allies' planes were in the air above, ready to bomb, and he appeared in the air with his arms raised to the Allied bombers. He prevented them from dropping the bombs on his monastery and on the village. The bombs dropped themselves onto land where no one lived, and the planes turned around and went back the other way on their own. These crews would eventually, after the war, meet with this flying padre. It is so documented by oodles of people that they experienced the supernatural fragrance associated with this shining star, Padre Pio, like a mixture of flowers, incense, or other pleasant scents that would appear suddenly and inexplicably. This phenomenon, known as the odor of sanctity, continues to be reported by many, many people even today. Thank you for tuning in. The sacred ways and energies of the Creator of the more be yours, beautiful soul. Your presence here is precious. Thank you so very, very much. Till next time.